Incredible transformation. Black CEO's seat stolen. Grounded flight uncovers. Surprising truth. Maya Johnson paced the airport lounge, the fluorescent lights flickering above her as if they were mirroring her turmoil. A sudden flight cancellation had thrown her into chaos. A pivotal board meeting awaited her back in San Francisco. The sting of injustice, her steadfast climb through the corporate ranks thwarted by a conniving rival, bore heavily on her. This wasn't just about her dream of becoming CEO. It was about securing a better life for Zoe, her bright daughter who faced relentless bullying at school for her mixed heritage. Frustration knotted in her stomach as she replayed the moment her rival, Ben, snatched the position she had slaved over for years. It felt impossible to reconcile the sacrifices she had made with the reality that someone else's connections had paved his way. "This world isn't made for women like us," she muttered to no one in particular, feeling the oppressive weight of that truth on her shoulders. As the lounge filled with annoyed travelers, Maya's eyes landed on Ms. Thompson, a woman whose presence seemed to command quiet respect. Hesitating for a heartbeat, she found herself drawn to the retired corporate attorney's worldly aura. The two exchanged words and Maya's composure crumbled. She spoke of being overlooked, of feeling like a ghost in a world that too often vanished her presence in its corporate haze. Their conversation took a turn as Ms. Thompson shared painful stories of her own battles in a predominantly white business world. Maya listened, each word igniting her sense of injustice and awakening a fire within. Surely this wasn't the end. But how to reclaim her narrative? Should she expose Ben's deceit even if it threatened her reputation? Maya's mind raced, a dangerous symphony of doubt. To move against Ben meant the possibility of backlash, a reprisal even. What if she failed, not just herself, but her daughter? While their conversation continued, the looming feeling of being on the verge of a reckoning wrapped tightly around her chest. "Change begins with a single voice," Ms. Thompson insisted, words reverberating like a mantra. "Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." As the clock ticked ominously toward her board meeting, panic-fueled thoughts surged through Maya's mind. Would confronting the truth shred the fragile semblance of stability for her daughter? Shouldn't family honor hold precedence over a corporate title? Recollections of Zoe's tear-streaked face flashed through her mind, fueled by ridicule and isolation. The stakes swelled, tight like a noose around her conscience. With every piece of evidence Maya collected against Ben, her own internal battle grew fiercer. In her mind, every harsh word her daughter faced echoed, amplifying the urgency she felt to stand up for her own truth. Would her courage mean the world for Zoe, showing her daughter that strength was worth risking everything for? The idea of becoming a voice for the overlooked filled her with exhilarating dread, a spine-chilling plunge into the unknown. Standing at the precipice of transformation, Maya wrestled with choices that would shape not just her future, but Zoe's. Her heart raced with tumultuous conflict, the air thickening with pressure. All she could do was inhale deeply and brace herself for the fight ahead, waiting for the moment to arrive when she would either take a stand or back down. What price was she willing to pay for her truth? Maya inhaled deeply, rallying her thoughts as the clock hands crept towards her meeting time. With Ms. Thompson's words echoing in her mind, she felt an unexpected shift. It wasn't merely about confronting Ben. It was about embracing her worth and directing her life's narrative. This realization unsettled her, but it also offered a clarity she'd been gripping for. She glanced around the bustling lounge, noticing the myriad of faces and the quiet stories they carried. Each traveler bore a burden, and she was no different. Yet, she realized hers could no longer be a silent struggle. Steamrolling past an opportunity would mean teaching Zoe to accept injustice, a lesson that sparked her anger. She could almost hear her daughter's voice. "Mom, why didn't you fight?" Determined now, Maya gathered her scattered evidence, meticulously outlining Ben's transgressions. Every shady business deal, every forged signature, they all fused into a growing sense of empowerment. Every page she stacked represented not just her fight for the CEO position, but a battle for respect and dignity in a world that often sought to erase her. As the announcements for departing flights echoed through the lounge, she could feel the electric pulse of her heart matching the rhythm of her decision. This was no longer about simply reclaiming a title, but showing Zoe the strength that existed in standing up against the currents. Could this conviction ripple beyond her own narrative? With newfound resolve, Maya approached the airport's business center to access her laptop. She needed to report her findings to a trusted board member and prepare for the confrontation ahead. The anticipation both excited and terrified her. The idea of facing Ben head-on filled her with equal parts dread and determination. As she typed out an email to Teresa, a mentor at the firm, her thoughts raced. Would Teresa truly back her? The risk of professional fallout loomed large. If her colleagues perceived her actions as retaliation, it could destroy her credibility. The corporate world held no room for those pulling back the curtain on its darker dealings. Yet the urgency outweighed the fear. Each keystroke echoed her growing tenacity. The truth will win, she whispered under her breath as she pressed send. Yet, uncertainty gnawed at her. What if Teresa dismissed her evidence as mere jealousy? Would the board side with Ben, emboldened by their collective implicit bias? Thoughts spiraled as she wondered whether she had overlooked a crucial element. Suddenly, a nagging thought broke through her anxiety. What else could she leverage? Collaborating with Ms. Thompson wasn't merely a chance meeting. It felt like a crossing of paths meant to embolden her resolve. Maya's fingers drifted to her phone, a text on the tip of her tongue. Ms. Thompson, I could use your insight. But would the attorney be willing to step into the fray with her? A flash of movement caught her eye, a corner of the lounge where another group gathered, perhaps discussing a significant deal, laugh mingling with shouts of triumph, symbols of success she craved. Her stomach churned with both jealousy and longing. Oh, Maya, she scolded herself. Focus. This isn't about them. But wasn't it? The specter of ambition hung in the air around her, demanding more than just her word. As she prepared to reach out again, a soft tap on her shoulder startled her. It was Ms. Thompson, seemingly appearing out of nowhere, yet her gaze was warm and inquisitive. Maya, she said, her voice steady, you look like you're about to change the world. What do you need? In that moment, Maya realized how critical this conversation could be. Her heart began to race anew, the prospect of aligning with Ms. Thompson igniting a flame of potential. It was time to transcend her fear, seeking the support necessary to take back her voice, and ultimately her power. But just as she opened her mouth to respond, the surrounding atmosphere shifted and Maya's world narrowed down to the two of them, a collision of futures converging. Let's talk, she said, resolutely embracing this unexpected partnership. Little did she know, decisions forged in the hour would lead her into a confrontation with Ben that would change everything, one that would resound far beyond her personal struggles. Would she gain the ally she desperately needed, or would this partnership unveil more than she bargained for? Maya felt an unfamiliar rush of clarity as she faced Ms. Thompson. The weight of her situation seemed to lift, replaced by a sense of purpose that charged the air around them. Here was a woman, an attorney, who could either guide her through this monumental confrontation, or serve as a mirror reflecting her own uncertainties. Ms. Thompson, Maya began, her voice steadier than she anticipated, I need your insight not just legally but emotionally too. I'm about to challenge someone who has dominated my workplace and my self-esteem. The attorney nodded thoughtfully, her demeanor professional yet encouraging. It's crucial to prepare for warfare on both fronts. The legal battle is one thing, but how you present yourself, the confidence behind your words during the confrontation with Ben, that's just as significant. Maya absorbed this, realizing that Ms. Thompson wasn't only offering legal advice. She was highlighting the necessity of fortitude in her approach. Listening intently, Maya began to outline the details of her evidence, not merely as a recitation of facts, but as a narrative that underscored her resolve, her professional integrity at stake. Tell me, Ms. Thompson prompted, what made you gather this evidence? What shifted in you that brought you here? Maya's mind raced back to the quiet moments with Zoe, teaching her daughter about standing up for what's right, about never settling for less. "It's not just about me anymore," Maya responded, her voice thick with emotion. "Zoe's watching. How I handle this shapes her understanding of justice." The realization hit like a wave, and she saw Ms. Thompson's eyes light up. "That's the spirit you need to bring to your confrontation with Ben. He's not just a petty tyrant. He's a symbol of the larger system you're up against. This is about redefining not only your career but potentially the culture of the entire organization." Maya's stomach churned. She felt both overwhelmed at the enormity of this task and exhilarated by the possibility of change. "Will I be able to break through that mindset?" she asked, her doubt surfacing. "Even if I'm prepared, what happens if the board doesn't support me?" "You have to present yourself as undeniable," Ms. Thompson encouraged. "You need to showcase your accomplishments, your vision for the company, and your value beyond what they've known. This is as much about perception as it is about facts." Each word resonated deeply with Maya. Here was the strategy she so desperately needed. If she connected her narrative to her ambitions and positioned herself as an indispensable asset, she could challenge the bias she faced. As they spent the next hour crafting her presentation together, Maya's confidence began to solidify. With each bullet point and assertion, she was slowly constructing an armor of conviction, yet a nagging worry persisted. What if her efforts were not enough? Was she strong enough to withstand the forthcoming confrontation? As Ms. Thompson packed her materials, Maya made a daring decision. "Can you come with me?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. "To the meeting? Having you there as my ally would change everything." Ms. Thompson paused, weighing the request. "Understand, Maya, that being an attorney is playing your card on the legal front. But this is your battle. If you feel I can amplify your voice, I will stand by your side." A surge of gratitude overwhelmed Maya. She knew this partnership could redefine the outcome, not just for herself, but for everything she hoped to instill in Zoe. As they prepared to leave the lounge towards the conference room, an unexpected anxiety prickled at the back of Maya's mind. It wasn't just about the fight ahead. It was a test of her true self, a chance to go beyond the confines of the past. Could she emerge from this as more than just a contender? Could she become a beacon of change? "Ms. Thompson," she articulated just before stepping into the corridor, "if I can confront Ben and win, what would that mean for the culture of the firm?" "It could mean a revolution in how leadership is perceived," Ms. Thompson replied, excitement gleaming in her eye. "But first, you must become that leader." Bracing herself for the looming confrontation, Maya stepped forward, ready to face not only Ben, but the very limits she had initially set for herself. Today would determine if her voice could echo far beyond the company's walls. Would she fold under pressure, or could she rewrite her narrative here and now? The impending uncertainty loomed large, but as she pushed open the door to the meeting room, one truth became glaringly evident. This battle transcended personal ambition. It was a pivotal moment capable of initiating profound transformation. Stepping into the meeting room, Maya felt an immediate shift in the atmosphere. The stark fluorescent lights bore down on her, amplifying the tension that thickened like fog in the air. Several members of the board were already seated, their expressions a mix of indifference and skepticism. Ben lounged at the table's head, radiating the easy confidence of a man who believed he held all the cards. But Maya had come prepared. The walls echoed a hush that felt like the calm before an approaching storm. She took her seat, her mind racing, thoughts colliding in quick succession. This moment felt monumental, and yet so fragile. There was no turning back now. As she arranged her notes, Maya could hear her heart pounding within her chest, a rhythmic reminder of the stakes involved, not just for her, but also for Zoe. What example would she set if she faltered today? What would a failure teach her daughter about power dynamics and courage? With every question, she felt the burning determination whispering just beneath the surface. Failure would not be an option. Ms. Thompson settled into the seat beside her, offering an encouraging nod. It provided reassurance that she wasn't alone in this. Breathing in deeply, Maya decided the best strategy was to allow her passion for equity to fuel her narrative. She had worked too hard and sacrificed too much to fall short under the weight of Ben's oppressive demeanor. "Thank you all for gathering today," she began, her voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotion surging within. "I'm here to discuss the recent adjustments in our department, reflecting on our successes, and making a case for a new direction forward." Maya laid out the statistics she had compiled, detailing growth metrics that reinforced her position. As she spoke, she sensed a shift in the room. For the first time, the board members leaned in, curiosity piqued by her assertiveness. She was no longer merely a voice among many. She had transformed into a force, a warrior armed with knowledge. As the discussion unfolded, Ben interrupted with a threshold of skepticism, attempting to undermine her by stating, "Isn't it a bit presumptuous of you to think your insights are what this firm needs right now? Especially considering how untried you are?" His tone was laced with condescension, a blatant attempt to dismiss her. The air crackled with tension. It would be easy to retreat under such an attack, but Maya knew she had to confront him head-on. "Ben, our firm's future relies on adaptability, not stuck in outdated hierarchies. My ideas stem from ground-level experiences and insight. They're tried, tested, and true," she asserted. There was a fortitude in her tone that momentarily silenced him, and the board seemed to appreciate the challenge she posed. With every rebuttal and every assertion of her value, Maya felt the clutch of doubt loosening its grip. This was about more than pushing back against Ben. It was about forging her identity as an empowering leader, one who could inspire others to reject complacency and seek progress. Yet this sense of empowerment also ushered in a fresh torrent of anxiety. What if they didn't see her point of view? What if Ben's influence was too great? The stakes began to crystallize in her mind, not just the possibility of losing her current position, but losing the chance to reshape her world for Zoe. As the board deliberated, Maya glanced at Ms. Thompson, who seemed to sense her internal crisis. The attorney's expression conveyed a silent charge. "You can do this." The encouragement paralleled Maya's inner turmoil, nudging her towards a pivotal realization, a chance to solidify her worth, not only for herself, but as an example for those who would come after her. "Yes, I may be vulnerable today," she stated boldly, "but vulnerability is also where strength is born. And if we want this company to thrive, it must embrace the strength in diversity, inclusion, and change." The board became more animated, discussions bubbling beneath her words. Time felt suspended as energy surged through their slowly shifting opinions. But just as she felt a flicker of hope, another wave of doubt crashed down over her. Would her bravery be enough? This confrontation was only the precursor to the decision that lay ahead. Before the board could reach a conclusion, the timer on her resolve began ticking. Each second stretched unbearably into the next as Maya braced for the verdict. Would she prevail in this battle of ideologies? Or was this fight just the beginning of a much larger war, one that would demand more than what she was prepared to give? In that moment, the door swung open, and a new presence stepped into the room, someone from outside the board, and their arrival could alter everything. Would they stand as an ally, or complicate the reckoning she was fighting to build? Maya's heart raced again as the newcomer entered. Their figure was a striking contrast against the sterile backdrop of the boardroom, a striking woman with an air of authority that commanded immediate respect. Her confidence radiated, creating a ripple of unease among the board members who previously seemed so secure in their indifference. This was more than just a new face. This was a potential game-changer. "Hello, everyone," the newcomer said, her voice rich with authority and purpose. "I'm Elaine Gomez, the new analyst brought in to assess our strategies and performance. I've been reviewing your materials and couldn't miss how innovative Maya's proposal is." Maya felt a surge of pride mixed with apprehension. Would Elaine's presence bolster her stance, driving home her points, or would it backfire, drawing attention away from her carefully laid groundwork? She realized that unconsciously, the duration of her confidence had been rested solely on her own abilities. Here was an unexpected ally, yet also a test of her resolve. Could she harness this moment without surrendering her narrative? As Elaine dissected the firm's failings and the need for adapting to contemporary market demands, Maya found herself once again driven to the forefront of her thoughts. "This is what I've been saying," she thought, a mental echo resonating through the fear that had coursed through her before. What had once felt like isolation now transformed into an open call for revolution. Ben's expression soured visibly. His previous bravado was now paired with a creeping panic. Maya sensed the tide turning. The board members were transfixed, pulling their focus toward Elaine's expertise, allowing Maya the opportunity to integrate her visions with this new validation. She had to capitalize on this moment. "Thank you, Elaine," Maya interjected smoothly, her mind racing to assimilate the new dynamics. "Your insights align perfectly with my proposal regarding the restructuring. We have an opportunity to innovate while empowering our staff, particularly by promoting a diverse leadership model." The discussion morphed as board members began to ask questions, challenging both Elaine and Maya to clarify their ideas further. The tension shifted, interlaced with curiosity and the desire for collaboration, a contrast to the anxiety that had once gripped the room. Yet, as the dialogue expanded, a familiar sensation stirred within her. A flicker of self-doubt that she had just dispelled, creeping back like a persistent shadow. Despite the backdrop of enthusiasm, what if they dismissed her ideas altogether once again? What if the partnership crumbled, leaving her vulnerable to the very judgment she had sought to escape? "Remember why you're here. Remember Zoe," she chanted internally. "You're fighting for equity, for a brighter future." Maya took a breath, grounding herself. She leaned into the dialogue around her, bouncing ideas with Elaine, her voice calm yet impervious. The dynamic had become a dance of intellect, as they exchanged concepts that emphasized the necessity of growth and adaptability. This was synergy, but she couldn't lose sight of her purpose. As the board deliberated, she felt a budding camaraderie with Elaine, yet a realization dawned on her. The more they collaborated, the more she had to articulate her own vision distinctly, lest she be absorbed into someone else's narrative. Defining clarity was critical to ensure her position remained vital and centered. "Collaboration breeds evolution, but I will not lose my voice," she articulated, letting the force of her professionalism flow forward with each word. It was a revelation. She wasn't just delivering a proposal, she was sculpting her identity as a leader, one that balanced assertiveness with cooperation. As the discussions brewed around her, a flicker of hope ignited within. Perhaps today could be a turning point, not only for the board, but for her own trajectory as a leader. Then, just as Maya began to feel settled in this newfound energy, Ben suddenly interrupted. "This whole approach is fraught with inexperience, Maya. You don't have what it takes to spearhead this transition." The room fell silent. Maya's heart clenched painfully. As she turned to face him, a challenge sparked within her. "It's time for new voices, Ben. Voices that challenge the old paradigms, those willing to take risks for real change." Her words cut through the tension. The board stirred, gauging reactions, and as doubt flickered in Ben's eyes, Maya seized the moment. Yet just as she felt the ground firm beneath her, Elaine's gaze shifted toward the door, and a new figure appeared, a consultant from outside who might have the capacity to sway opinions even further. This interruption threatened to derail her momentum. What would this new development mean for her fight? The balance of power shifted once more. As the air thickened with tension, Maya knew a crucial moment lay ahead, one that would determine not only her future at the firm, but how she defined herself as a leader in the relentless pursuit of equity. Would this upheaval unleash a torrent of potential, or would it drown her aspirations once and for all? The newcomer stepped confidently into the boardroom, a brash demeanor that seemed to suck the air from the already charged atmosphere. Maya's gut twisted as the implications of this appearance weighed heavily on her. No longer were they debating merely the merits of her proposal. The stakes had now risen to a precarious level, where she needed to defend not only her vision, but also her very seat at the table. Elaine exchanged a few terse words with the consultant, who bore the distinguished title of a change management specialist. Though the man's reputation preceded him, his presence cast a shadow that set Maya's nerves alight. She couldn't help but notice the glances shifting from her to this new figure, who was evidently being positioned as a potential advocate, the air thick with unvoiced questions. Would he agree with Maya, or would he tilt the scales back toward Ben's antiquated methodology? Maya clutched her notes, feeling the slick surface of the pages beneath her palms. Every word she had prepared felt almost bleached of significance in the face of this new challenge. The room is still. A ticking clock echoed with each second passing, a stark reminder to Maya that in this whirlwind, her moment to stand out was slipping away. As she watched the consultant settle in with a casual demeanor, confidence flickered unsteadily in Maya's core. She couldn't allow fear of change or external validation to dictate her voice. She remembered the strength of her convictions, the countless late nights spent refining her proposal, the enthusiasm of her team rallying behind her vision. This wasn't just about her. It was about fostering a work environment where innovative ideas could thrive. Let's explore how these strategies integrate real-world dynamics, the consultant said, his tone smooth, but his words became a maze Maya had to navigate carefully. Integrating market strategies while emphasizing an inclusive leadership model is paramount. Maya chimed in, her voice steady despite the undertow of anxiety. We cannot simply adapt. We must innovate without losing sight of our ethical pillars. If we want to lead in equity, we have to practice what we preach. Ben scoffed, attempting to undermine her confidence with a dismissive wave. Equity is an ideal, Maya. This approach ignores the realities of our operational constraints. Rather than retreating, Maya faced her opponent directly, her heart racing but unfaltering. Realities should not stunt our vision, they should guide it. We've always worked within constraints, and that's the sign of adaptability. Isn't that what this firm stands for? The room shifted, not simply under the weight of her words, but through the palpable energy building around her. Questions arose from the board members, seeking clarity, seeking engagement. For the first time since the consultant's arrival, the spotlight swung back toward Maya. Yet the flicker of doubt still lurked within her, a question echoing, what if the fire she had ignited was snuffed before it reached its peak? Inwardly, she wrestled with the need to assert herself without stepping on Elaine's authority. Their collaborative dynamic could be the key to overcoming the chaos. Elaine helped redirect some questions back to Maya. Maya's insights resonate with what our market analysis indicates. Challenging norms while maintaining operational integrity is exactly how we leverage growth. The support bolstered Maya's confidence momentarily, but it also shoved her back into the internal whirlwind. She couldn't become complacent, not now. Each insightful exchange was a reminder that she had more to contribute than just defiance against the established order. As the meeting carried on, Maya grappled with defining success beyond just victory over Ben's opposition. Her aspirations deepened. She envisioned a future where her name stood proudly in her industry, recognized for her ideas, her strength, her willingness to provoke necessary change. The meeting was approaching its close, and with it arrived a new focus, a promise of her potential yet to be realized. As the final insights were communicated, she felt the tide shifting increasingly in her favor, but realized the true battle lay beyond just this meeting. Would her clarion call for equity outside the boardroom find traction? Could she cultivate this newfound energy into momentum that not only swept through these walls, but also transformed the very fabric of their corporate culture? Her thoughts spiraled, and in that instant, familiar anxiety flirted with curiosity. A symphony of possibilities awaited her, and as looking back at Ben, still set on opposing her, she felt a shimmering resolve crystallizing within her. The consultant's predictions would likely pivot the conversation again, but Maya was determined to remain center stage in this unfolding narrative. However, just as they were about to adjourn, the consultant turned to her, a wry smile forming. What other strategic insights do you hold, Maya? Their potential is boundless, if you dare to quantify it. The implications of his question resounded in her mind, and with it came a rush of possibility, but also a surge of urgency. Maya knew that stepping beyond conventional boundaries would require a brave leap into the unknown, yet here lay the chance to define her legacy. How far was she willing to go to assert her vision amidst this unexpected power play? The moment had arrived. Today, she wouldn't just voice her thoughts. She would strategize for a future that dared her to grow beyond the walls of this room. What risks might she need to embrace to avoid being overshadowed? Maya felt a rush of adrenaline sweep through her as the consultant's question hung in the air. This was the moment she'd been waiting for, the opportunity to step into her own potential. She inhaled deeply, forcing herself to focus on the possibilities rather than the weight of their scrutiny. The boardroom buzzed with expectations, each pair of eyes fixed on her, waiting for her to unwrap the insights she had been guarding. To quantify the impact of our strategies, we need to embrace a dual approach, she began, her voice firm. First, we assess our concrete goals, aligning them with measurable outcomes, and second, we inject a cultural shift that fosters resilience through continuous feedback. Her confident cadence cut through the murmur of skepticism, igniting a flicker of interest in the board members' eyes. But doubts still crept in. Could this momentum be directed towards a transformative approach that would not just defend her position, but elevate it? What if it wasn't enough? Cultural shifts? Ben challenged, his tone dripping with derision. That sounds like chaos in the making. Does anyone remember the last time someone tried to reinvent the wheel? We need practical strategies, not utopian ideals. Maya met his gaze, feeling her heart pound as she contemplated her response. She needed to choose her words carefully, engaging both Elaine and the consultant. Ben, you know better than anyone that stagnation leads to failure. We're not proposing chaos. We're advocating for agility. In today's fast-evolving market, success hinges on our capacity to adapt and innovate effectively. The room held a collective breath as she blissfully rode the wave of her conviction, carving out space for her vision. Equity isn't just about ideological discourse, it's about implementing real, data-driven strategies that measure growth while nurturing inclusivity. By investing in our people, establishing mentorship programs, and diversifying our leadership pipeline, we set the stage for sustainable success. Encouraged by the responsive nods around the room, Maya pivoted seamlessly, outlining a framework to bridge her initial vision with quantifiable metrics. Imagine establishing KPIs that reflect both financial growth and employee satisfaction. We could pioneer a standard that others in our industry strive to emulate. The energy in the room shifted as her colleagues began discussing the implications of her proposals. Her voice, once tentative, resonated with strength. Maya realized it wasn't just about surviving the meeting. She was crafting her legacy, one that combined her aspirations with actionable strategies. As she spoke, her doubts began to melt, but a new reality dawned. The risks inherent in pursuing such a bold strategy loomed larger. Would the vision she cast lead to actual change, or would it stir further resistance among the old guard? The consultant interjected, a thoughtful frown creasing his forehead. Maya, while your vision is commendable, we must address potential pushback. Have you considered how we can frame this plan to preemptively tackle resistance? His words stung, but also ignited a fire within her. What if anticipating opposition became an integral part of her strategy? Adapting her approach to not just execute change but facilitate it resonated with an emerging understanding of her journey. The lessons from her past began to intertwine with her current challenges, revealing the patterns of her growth. I acknowledge resistance, Maya replied, feeling the weight of decision-making press against her. But I also recognize that leadership is about taking calculated risks. We can embed feedback loops within teams to alleviate fears and foster collaboration. This way, we create ownership of our transformation and minimize pushback. The conversation erupted, and for the first time Maya felt as though she was advocating for something larger than herself. Yet beneath the excitement simmered a reality she could not ignore. Each insight and strategy generated not only possibilities but also personal stakes. Her own career was on the line, as was her burgeoning identity as a leader. In that hotbed of discourse, she realized she wasn't merely fighting off Ben's antiquated ideals. The struggle was deeper. It involved cultivating her voice amidst a cacophony of previously established norms, and it required a strategic dance between conviction and cautious navigation. As the meeting drew to a close, Maya's mind raced ahead. Would she have the audacity to capitalize on this momentum, to move beyond the confines of this discussion and chart a path that would reclaim her narrative? She had initiated a conversation, but what could she do to ensure it extended beyond these walls? The consultant's final comment before the session adjourned lingered in her mind like an ominous cloud. Your vision is inspiring, Maya, but the real battle lies ahead. Will you embrace this change and execute it, or will the pressure force you to retreat into old patterns? With the weight of his words heavy upon her, Maya took stock of the journey that lay ahead. This wasn't merely a challenge. It was an invitation to fully step into her potential. The moment stood before her, charged with unyielding possibility, yet laced with the urgency of risk. As the room began to clear, Maya found herself facing Ben once more. A knowing glance exchanged between them. The animosity simmered just beneath the surface. She knew they would face each other again, and this time the stakes would be even higher. Would she remain unyielding, or would she bend under the weight of opposition? With her resolve hardened, she whispered to herself, "It's time to redefine the game." But as she walked out, uncertainty crept in. How would she balance ambition with the fear of missteps? The true test awaited her just beyond those walls. Maya stepped back into the hallway, the echo of her own heartbeat reverberating in her ears. Each step felt heavy, yet charged with an undercurrent of anticipation. The meeting had ignited something within her, a flicker of hope blossoming alongside her doubts. There was power in her voice now. She had articulated a vision that resonated. Yet with that power came new fears. What if she couldn't follow through? She paused momentarily in front of a glass wall, watching her reflection. The confident image staring back reminded her of the resilient leader she yearned to become. As if in response to her silent questioning, the glass displayed not just her face, but the faint outlines of a bigger narrative, one of change and ambition. Tension pulsed in her chest. What would be her next step? She whipped out her phone, skimming through notes from the meeting. Each bullet point brought with it the weight of responsibility. The idea of mentorship programs had received positive feedback. Perhaps it was time to develop a proposal to establish them. It could foster inclusion and engagement, dismantling the dangerous us versus them mentality Ben had fostered. Muscles tensed, and Maya felt a familiar pulse of anxiety at potential backlash. Ben was one of many, but he wielded influence over long-standing traditions. If she moved too quickly, the tide could easily turn against her. Yet a flicker of defiance ignited at the thought of yielding. She needed to be strategic. Change wouldn't just happen. It needed to be engineered. Later that evening, Maya sat at her kitchen table, diverse notes and research sprawled around her. She glanced at her laptop, her fingers hovering above the keys. This was where transformation could take root. Perhaps she could introduce a monthly forum to discuss ongoing projects and foster input from all levels. A democratic avenue where all voices were welcome could generate authentic engagement. Still, she was gripped by an unsettling thought. What if her approach only instigated more resistance? Was she truly ready to brave the potential fallout? Drowning in self-doubt, she buried her face in her palms. Why couldn't she escape the grasp of fear? Her phone vibrated against the table, jolting her from the spiral. A notification flashed, an alert from a leadership forum she subscribed to. The headline read, "Building Resilience in Times of Change." Intrigued, she opened the article and found insights on harnessing both vulnerability and strength. Each point resonated, sparking the embers of inspiration flickering inside her. For the first time, Maya decided to lean into her vulnerability, to share her learning curve with her team rather than present herself as infallible. What if she began openly discussing the challenges she faced? Acknowledging her missteps could humanize her vision. It could forge a bond between her and her colleagues, creating a shared journey rather than a solitary struggle. The realization felt liberating, the promise of personal connection outweighing her fear. As the evening wore on, Maya meticulously crafted an outline for her mentorship proposal, interwoven with the monthly forum idea. The pressure to succeed felt less like a stone around her neck and more like the spark that fueled her determination. She labeled the document "Lead Together." It was not just about her. Forging a path became a collective effort. Just as she felt clarity settle within her, The telephone rang, startling her back to reality. It was Elaine, her ally and mentor. "Maya, I heard about your meeting today. You did well. We need to keep this momentum going." "I'm working on a mentorship and feedback program proposal," Maya shared, her voice steady, infused with a new sense of purpose. "That sounds promising, but remember, Maya, you must be prepared for pushback, especially from Ben. People fear the unknown." Elaine's words struck a chord. "Maybe I can initiate a one-on-one dialogue with him," Maya mused, feeling an odd blend of excitement and apprehension. But was she ready to confront him directly? Would it bolster her position or put her further at risk? After they hung up, she reflected on Elaine's warning. Interacting with Ben could generate friction at first, but perhaps it was time to confront not only the systemic barriers within the organization, but her own fear of standing her ground. That thought lingered as she prepared for bed. She would chart a clear course, face Ben, engage her team, and fiercely, unapologetically lead them toward change. Tomorrow could usher in a pivotal moment, a transformation that might echo throughout her career. But would she find the courage to face Ben? The clock ticked ominously as she wrestled in the quiet silence, shadows gathering in anticipation. The real battle was just beginning, and uncertainty hung in the air, thick and palpable. Would she rise or retreat? As sleep finally beckoned, the horizon of possibility stretched before her, waiting for her to take that critical leap. Maya awoke the next day with a renewed sense of purpose. The first rays of sun seeped through her window, illuminating the chaos in her kitchen from the night before. As she glanced at her notes, the scattered papers felt less like burdens and more like the building blocks of her vision. Today wasn't just another day at work. It was the day she would confront her fears and initiate her revolutionary plan. Her commute felt unusually long, the rhythmic motions of the train failing to calm her nerves. Questions churned in her mind. What if Ben dismissed her ideas outright? What if she couldn't articulate her vision clearly enough? With each stop, she felt the weight of possibility press harder against her chest. Upon arrival, the office buzzed with morning energy. Colleagues exchanged cheerful greetings, yet the stark reality of her mission set in. Maya's heart raced as she approached her desk. She took a deep breath and began typing an email to the team, inviting them to an informal gathering later to discuss her proposal and collect feedback. Sharing her ideas with a larger audience felt daunting, yet necessary. As she hit send, her phone buzzed again. It was Elaine checking in. "I hope you're ready for today. Remember to stay centered. You're there for change, not war." Maya smiled at the wisdom, but the impending confrontation loomed over her. She realized that it wasn't merely about proposing new ideas, but demonstrating her commitment to them, embodying the leader she aspired to be. When lunchtime rolled around, the air shifted as she spotted Ben at the coffee machine. Instinctively, her stomach churned, but the flicker of determination burning in her chest surged to the surface. This could be her chance. As she walked up, she felt every heartbeat echoing in her ears. "Ben, do you have a moment?" He turned, eyebrow raised, a slight smirk dancing at the corners of his lips. "Maya, what can I do for you?" "I wanted to discuss some ideas I've been developing for a mentorship program," she began, voice steady despite the fluttering anxiety. The words poured out, mapping her vision for inclusion and growth, and to her surprise, Ben listened. His expression shifted from curiosity to puzzlement, a fleeting frown shadowing his face. "A mentorship program." He crossed his arms. "You really think that's what we need right now? The undercurrents here run deep." Maya paused, feeling the onset of doubt. "I understand that the changes are significant, but I believe we have to address them head-on to foster genuine collaboration. My initiative isn't about dismantling the past, but building a bridge to the future." His eyes narrowed slightly, but she pressed on, encouraged by the engagement. "We've seen too often how silos form and stifle potential. By starting a mentorship program, we're not just talking about hierarchy, but real relationships that can drive innovation." Unexpectedly, a flicker of intrigue crossed his face. "Okay, let's say I'm interested. What do you have in mind?" Maya seized the moment, heart racing as she began outlining her plans again with confidence. the various layers of her proposal merging into a cohesive vision. As she spoke, she noticed the tightness in her chest easing slightly, an undeniable shift taking place. Here lay her power not in battling resistance but in brave articulation. When she concluded, Ben remained silent for a moment, processing. "You've got guts, I'll give you that, but people don't like change, especially those who thrive on the status quo." "I know," she replied, meeting his gaze with conviction. "But isn't it our responsibility to lead them towards a better understanding? We can offer them an active role in this transformation." Ben's stare was intense, the challenge lingering in the air between them. This wasn't just about submitting a proposal. Maya was possibly provoking a fundamental shift in their work culture. Could he actually feel compelled to support a change he initially opposed? As he walked away, uncertainty mingled with hope in her gut. Would this encounter turn into allyship or further conflict? She had planted a seed, but would it take root or wither under scrutiny? Later that afternoon, Maya prepared for her team meeting, grappling with mixed emotions. She hoped that the small group could spur greater alignment and amplify her vision. Yet the specter of Ben's influence loomed large over the proceedings. As her colleagues gathered, she could see their skepticism mirrored in their expressions. Their eyes darted, questioning her credibility. Would they rally behind her? Or was she merely setting herself up for failure? As the meeting commenced, Maya took a deep breath and embraced the uncertainty. She had to lead with conviction, and with every word, a newer version of herself emerged that braved the possibility of true engagement. But even as she sensed the tide beginning to shift, she couldn't ignore the growing pressure within. Ben was out there, watching and waiting. What was next? The very thought sent a pang of apprehension coursing through her. Could this be the pivotal moment she had longed for, or merely the start of a daunting struggle? As she stood there, ready to address her peers, the unanswered questions swirled around her, each one a heavy reminder that the journey had only just begun. The stakes were higher than ever before. How would she navigate the tumultuous waters ahead? The day Maya had anticipated arrived, and with it, the chance for transformation. As she stood before her colleagues, a mix of apprehension and determination coursed through her. Today was the day she'd unveil her mentorship proposal, a bold move that could reshape the culture of her firm and validate her role as a leader within this landscape. "Thank you all for being here today," she began, her voice strong as she made eye contact with each team member. "I've spent significant time considering how we can cultivate a more inclusive atmosphere that empowers all of us." The initial murmurs subsided, and Maya took a deep breath, channeling her focus. Mentorship isn't just an initiative, it's a commitment to growth, collaboration, and equity. I envision a program that pairs experienced employees with newer team members, fostering relationships where knowledge and expertise can flourish. As she spoke, her conviction blossomed, a stark contrast from the uncertainty that once clouded her vision. Maya leveraged data she had painstakingly compiled, showcasing trends that hinted at how mentorship could enhance productivity and company morale. She emphasized benefits she had seen in other organizations, igniting curiosity and cautious enthusiasm. The room remained silent, absorbing her words as she articulated how mutual accountability could stem from the program. Maya felt a spark of empowerment ignite within her. She was no longer just proposing ideas, she was advocating for a shift in their collective mindset. Mentorship will not only help us grow individually, but it will also create a collaborative environment where different voices are valued, she continued, the weight of her message palpable. I strongly believe that cultivating diverse leaders isn't just good for us. It's essential for the future success of our firm. As she concluded, Maya searched the room for feedback, her heart pounding wildly. I want this to be a dialogue, not a monologue. What are your thoughts? A moment of hesitation hung in the air before someone raised their hand. I see merit in your plan, but how do we ensure it doesn't become just another checkbox for the upper management? Maya welcomed the question, remembering her fears of resistance yet feeling invigorated by the challenge. That's a legitimate concern. My intention is for this program to be community-driven, with regular review sessions to assess its effectiveness and adapt as necessary. More hands shot up, sparking a lively discussion among her team about potential drawbacks and adjustments. Their engagement reflected a shift. This was no longer about her proposal. It was about their shared vision. After the meeting, Maya felt lighter. The conversations had erupted with anxiety but ultimately transformed into a rallying support for her proposal. The last lingering thread of doubt unwound itself. She was capable of leading this movement. However, as she exited the conference room, she spotted Ben lurking in the hallway, his arms crossed, a skeptical expression plastered on his face. "Interesting approach, Maya, but good luck convincing upper management to get on board," he said, condescension evident. "Mentalities shift with persistence, Ben," Maya countered, anchoring herself in the moment. "Perhaps you'll be surprised by how the tide turns when there are more voices demanding progress." His gaze intensified. "Just be careful not to overstep your boundaries," he warned, but instead of deterred, Maya felt emboldened. That evening she reflected on her day with an unexpected sense of fulfillment as she reviewed her notes and mapped out future steps for her mentorship program. Each bullet point gleamed with potential, a reminder that she was not just a contender but could indeed influence change. Days turned to weeks, and the conversation surrounding Maya's initiative gained momentum. She organized informal workshops to further discuss the details of her proposal and how they could effectively integrate mentorship within their framework. Responses were overwhelmingly positive, and soon colleagues from across departments joined in, eager to contribute. It was during one of these workshops that Maya noticed a marked change in herself. The shy, hesitant employee had evolved into a confident leader who advocated passionately for equity and inclusiveness. No longer did she feel shackled by fear or overshadowed by Ben's influence. Instead, she felt empowered to carve out her own narrative. With newly acquired clarity, Maya sought to engage directly with upper management to solidify interest in her mentorship program. The conversations had shifted to momentum. She framed the initiative as a pioneer concept that aligned with the firm's goals, one that would help develop future leaders who reflected the diverse clientele they served. Finally, the day arrived when Maya was set to present to the executive board. Armed with feedback, data, and measurable growth targets, she felt prepared to take ownership of her vision. Facing her colleagues, she took a deep breath, centering herself. "Today, we're not just presenting a proposal," she began, conviction lacing every word. "We're establishing a framework that will ensure diversity, collaboration, and ultimately, the resilience of our firm. This is about more than mentorship. It's about reshaping our culture from within." After concluding her presentation, she looked around at her colleagues and upper management, who were visibly engaged, nodding along, some even scribbling notes. The realization hit her. She had crafted her narrative, overcoming every obstacle. When the board made their unanimous decision to implement the program, tears of relief and pride brimmed in Maya's eyes. This was not just a personal victory. It echoed the values she had fought for, the values she wanted her daughter Zoe to witness. In the days that followed, her department flourished in collaboration, and employees spoke of her with newfound respect. However, the most profound victory emerged one evening when Maya sat with Zoe at the dinner table. Zoe radiated confidence, speaking excitedly about her own challenges at school and her newfound determination to stand up against bullying. "Mom, you've shown me that our voices matter, that we can make a difference," she said, her words striking Maya's heart. In that moment, the sprawling complexity of Maya's journey crystallized into a singular truth. She had not only conquered the corporate battlefield, she had demonstrated unwavering resilience, reminding both herself and her daughter that true leadership emanates from the courage to transform. Maya leaned into Zoe, pride swelling within her, a promise that both of them could be active authors of change. "It's just the beginning," Maya whispered, the enormity of her journey etched into her soul. This was the fulfillment she'd longed for, but more importantly, it was about leaving a legacy rooted in truth, empowerment, and unwavering strength. As they embraced, Maya knew one thing for certain. She was ready to keep pushing boundaries, redefining her narrative, and nurturing the next generation to do the same. It was time to share this journey far and wide, inspiring others to embrace their own potential for transformation. And she knew precisely where to begin. Now's the time. If you resonate with stories of personal growth and resilience, subscribe immediately to our channel so you don't miss out on more exclusive and inspiring narratives. Leave a like now to help us grow this community devoted to personal triumph, and comment below your thoughts and theories on Maya's journey. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness the power of transformation. This is the moment to show your support.